Welcome back, everybody, to the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, and show producer of the Midday Show here on they're on 94 WIP on your 94.1 FM side of the dial, and I'm your host and your Lord, I guess you can call me, Matty B here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Kyle Quinn, 8-2. We talked about the importance of the Eagles showing up and showing out on Thursday Night Football in front of the country, and they did at least for one half of football.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lord Matt, thank you for having me. Thank God for that defense, dude, and thank God for Saquon Barkley. I mean, they carried the Eagles to a win Thursday night, and statement win to be able to do that against the team that you were fighting for division supremacy. But a few things to iron out. I'm sure we'll get into all those here today.
Yeah, we will get into some of those because there's a lot of buzz around the water cooler this week about the Eagles. Again, that Super Bowl talk has definitely kicked into a different level, and we're talking about the great play against the Commanders. Kyle, at the end of that first half, there was some serious doubt whether or not this football team could even be on the same field as the Washington Commanders. It was a terrible first half of football. 3 points the Eagles garnered in that half. They have now, their total for first half points has now dropped under 10 for the season. We talk about it weekly after week, Kyle. One of these weeks, these slow starts are going to come back and bite this team.
Yeah, and I mean, look, so I think as a whole, the way that the defense was able to keep the offense in the game is something that you could definitely point to and say, wow, the Eagles can win football games that way by playing the brand of defensive football that they've been playing. But the offense has to get out of the mud. They cannot stall like this in the beginning of football games against good teams, and that's not even necessarily that you can't trust the defense to break in the first quarter. I mean, your offense can put yourself in that kind of say against against Green Bay in week 1, you have a turnover and the other team's offense is able to punch it in the very beginning of a game. All of a sudden you find yourself in a hole. Can the Eagles throw their way back into a game? Can the Eagles throw their way into winning a game? Can they play a game where they're not from ahead, right, where they can lean on Saquon Barkley? I don't know. I mean, they haven't really proven that they've been able to do that yet this season. The one time that they did get into that situation was against Tampa Bay, and they got their asses handed to them. So I do think it's a different defense from that point than it is now, but the Eagles need to stop getting out in their own way in the beginning of football games, or it's going to bite them. I mean, a big situation, a big moment in the postseason, they're not going to be able to get away with that. I mean, no matter how good the defense is, that they're, you have to almost allow for them to let up a touchdown here and there in the beginning of a game. And if the offense or special teams puts you in a bad position, then you can't get yourself in that kind of hole and not be able to throw your way out of it. Or we're going to have, all the questions that we've been having, we're tentatively being timid about throwing them out there a little bit. But I mean, the quarterback seems like it's holding the offense back, and they're not going to be able to get away with that and go on a deep postseason run.
Yeah, because you mentioned all those things, and here's the thing that puzzles me about these slow starts. It's these first 15 scripted plays. The opening drives for this team on the whole this season have been terrible, and these are the first 15 plays that you're scripted. Now, maybe I misunderstand the whole scripting thing, but aren't these the plays you work on the most in practice? And you come out and you just have terrible penalty-laden, just bad starts to games. And you mentioned it. This team is not predicated on the pass. And you tell me where that came from, because we all thought it was going to be a lot different. They're predicated with the run. And it's a lot harder to run when you're trailing versus, run when you're ahead. And obviously you establish the run game and set up the pass. It's not the opposite way. Kyle, you brought up a good point about the quarterback. Not elite at any stretch of the imagination. This last week against the Commanders hasn't been really elite since the 22 season. Jalen Hurts, 18 for 28, 221 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, no nothing. He had a QBR rating of a 45.3. Not, that's not elite, and we're paying him elite money, and I'm having a problem with that because you're going to need Jalen Hurts at some point to be an elite quarterback if we want to win a Super Bowl. There's no getting around that. I don't buy the Trent Dilfer stuff and the game manager crap. We need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I mean, the Trent Dilfer thing happened because the 2000 Ravens had maybe the greatest defense you'll ever see. Like, I mean, I don't know. I can't even count how many shutouts they had that season. That was one of the most ridiculous defenses that we'll ever see in our lifetimes. The
Absolutely.
Eagles, while they have a really good defense, it's not that, right? And they are young, and they could get beat at some point by like say you got to go up against Josh Allen in a Super Bowl or something like that. Like these are tough teams. The Detroit Lions, right? They might wear you down a little bit in the running game. So like, this isn't going to be a perfect thing for this defense every single week. And to Hurts's credit, he didn't turn the ball over. And he picked it up a little bit the second half. I think he was 8 for 9 completing his passes. And they were able to get the offense going a little bit. But in terms of the starts of these games, I don't know if it's the first 15 scripted plays, which are supposed to be, your most effective plays to start a game, whether it's some of the penalties that are stalling out drives. I mean, at least in terms of this game, they did look like they were moving a little bit until all of a sudden they had a huge penalty that stalled a drive. But then you also have Jalen Hurts. Seems like he doesn't know what he's looking at, or he's holding on to the ball too long. I don't know if he's not trusting protection, which I wouldn't be able to quite understand why he wasn't trusting protection when he has two of the best tackles in football. I mean, particularly Mailata coming back and Lane Johnson. Like, if you look at the metrics on these guys, these two are on an island, far and away the best tackles in football. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be trusting protection. He's holding onto the ball way too long, or he doesn't know what he's looking at. Not exactly sure what's going on, but I do know this. It's not A.J. Brown's fault the offense isn't starting off hot. It's not Devontae Smith's fault the offense isn't starting hot. It's not Saquon Barkley's fault the offense is starting hot. It's not the offensive line's fault. So that really leaves me with one person. And I just think people need to ask themselves, why is this offense not looking the way that it should, right? This offense has the potential to be like a 35-point per game offense. It's not. So something is holding it back. And I find it hard to believe that a guy who's been successful in multiple stops, Kellen Moore, is what's holding the offense back. To me, it really just points to one person. And that definitely is cause for concern as the season goes forward.
Yeah, I mean, I joke around with the Moriarty offense, but I think that's really kind of what this is. It's, in my opinion, Kellen Moore's offense was just was too hard or whatever for Jalen to pick up in the amount of time he had to pick it up. It's predicated on slants, and it's predicated on quick hitters. It's predicated on the middle of the field, Kyle. Eagles don't throw the football to the middle of the field for whatever reason, and I think that reason is they don't trust the quarterback's ability to do that in a timely manner without putting the ball in harm. And again, when you shut off a good portion of the field for your aerial attack, listen, we can go down the seams we can go down the sidelines all we want. And I'm sure they're going to beat a lot of cornerbacks on that, but they're going to come up to a team that's not going to give that play up. And then where are we? I mean, Saquon can only carry you so far.
Yeah, and look, I mean, teams are going to adjust, right? You're going to see teams stack the box, and there is even a way for you to stop the sideline passes. I mean, you see it in games where the clock is rolling and teams are trying to prevent out of bounds plays. They just stick to the sidelines. So like if Jalen Hurts is going to use the middle of the field, then teams are going to start adjusting to that. There is going to come a time this season where, and for as much as I love Saquon and as amazing as he's been this year, there are teams with really good run defenses out there. There are teams that are going to find ways to make Saquon less of a threat. They're going to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands, and he better be able to better be ready to win them a football game, or else we're going to have serious questions in this town.
Yeah, but we don't have serious questions, as you mentioned earlier, about Saquon Barkley. Another masterful performance, 26 carries for 146 yards, only a 5.56 yard carry on average, but I'll take that. That's positive yards every time he touches the football. That's more than positive yards. But he had 2 touchdowns and a longest run of 39. Seemingly, Saquon Barkley continues to make a name for himself and strengthen the cause in case that he is a serious MVP candidate moving down the stretch of the season. I am going to pose the question to you though. Again, each week he's putting out these types of numbers, and each week we talk about it, and we don't want to talk about it, but is there concern that we are wearing the tread off the tires in late November?
So I think this is more of an issue for next season. Like the 49ers were able to, this is very reminiscent of what the Niners did with Christian McCaffrey last season. And McCaffrey was great the entire year. All of a sudden this year, this weird Achilles injury pops up and he's not ready to start the season. And then all of a sudden it's going into week 10 and, he's just not as fully effective for a lot of different reasons as he was last season. I think this is more of a next year issue, which, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. But I do think as long as the offense is efficient in passing the football, which at times they can be, right? Like they're not like Hurts isn't having games where he's like 2 for 10 passing, right? He's completing his passes, just not always seeing the full field, and sometimes he takes bad sacks when he doesn't need to. So I think if the passing game is efficient and I'll just answer it this way. I do think Saquon will be able to sustain this for a long period of time this season as long as the passing game is efficient enough. But that's a big proposition. Jalen Hurts needs to be better at throwing the football and needs to have that added threat in order for us to keep being able to lean on Saquon Barkley. See, the thing with the Niners last season was they did have that quick hitter passing attack where they could dump the ball to Debo or give it to Ayuk and Kittle and even McCaffrey out of the backfield, right? Like they had a threat in their passing game that I don't think we quite have to that, to that extent just yet. So I think Saquon himself is going to be okay, but the offense around him needs to make sure that his threat is not lessened by what other defense are going to prepare to do for them.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I maintain if he continues on his pace, it's going to be hard to say no to him for an MVP award. On the other side of the ball, the defense, again, the story of this game and really pretty much the entire season, they were on performance all night long. They are not having problems getting off to hot starts and maintaining consistent play throughout this game. They were all over the place. Jalen Daniels, 22 for 32, only 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He looked confused at times. He looked disheveled at times. He also looked pretty good at times too, but for the most part, you got to give credit for the defense. They did force 1 turnover in this game. That's positive. We're going in the right direction there. The play of Zach Bond, the Kobe Dean, the defensive backfield. I mean, on and on and on. We're not talking much about the players up front. Maybe we're just got to get used to the fact that we're not a blitzing team and that we're going to have to rely on the great play of our second level defenders. But Kyle, I do ask you this with the play of these individuals that I mentioned. These are relatively newcomers to this league. Is there a possibility that this is a kind of a perfect storm of just offensive coordinators not knowing much about tendencies of a Nakobe Dean or a Zach Bond or a Quinn or a Cooper DeJean? Now, DeJean and Mitchell are going to get tested like crazy on Sunday, but do you think there's a little to that, and that they're playing a little bit over their head because there's not much to base their tendencies off of?
So I don't believe that's the case. I actually think they can just flat out play. Like Quinn Mitchell teams don't even throw his way anymore. Like that's how sticky he is. And if you watch some of the tape, like he is on Terry McLaurin, like white on rice, man. I mean, the guy couldn't move when he was on his side. The communication between him and DeJean, it's awesome. I mean, even if a pass is getting completed, like they know where they're supposed to be at all times. You'll see guys point to the other guy for where they should be, like in the middle of a play. But the linebacker play, outstanding. I think Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond are having career years, which I think they should be able to sustain. What's not getting talked about enough is what Jalen Carter did in this game, because he was while it's not going to show up on the stat sheet with the sacks, he was a game wrecker, and he played every single defensive snap this week on a short week on Thursday Night Football as a defensive lineman. That is absurd. And we had a lot of questions this offseason about his conditioning, Jordan Davis's conditioning. I don't see any questions about his conditioning after what he just did on that short week, playing every single defensive snap. Jalen Carter was all over the place, getting through break that 4th down play where Jaden Daniels had to run outside and Zach Bond smacked him. That does not happen unless Jalen Carter doesn't bust through the center immediately. That ball was snapped and he was in Jaden Daniels' face and forced him to run outside to where the rest of our guys could clean up. So the back 7 is saving the front 4, which is something that we haven't been able to say about an Eagles defense in a long, long time. But a lot of it starts with the anchor in the middle, and that's Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is looking like everything he was cracked up to be in the second season that he's having. So, and with the corners, I don't know if I'm expecting a rookie wall. It's a little bit different with cornerbacks. You saw the Chiefs a couple of years ago when they won the Super Bowl. They had some young guys in that secondary, Trent McDuffie, and those guys got better as the season went on because, once you reach a certain point of games, you don't even call these guys rookies anymore. Like now they have a certain amount of NFL games under their belt. By the time they get to the playoffs, they have a full season of NFL action under their belt. So I think we can see these guys get even better as the season goes on.
I agree with what you're saying. And now with the news that Bryce Huff is going to be going on to the IR for some wrist procedure, that means more time for Jalix Hunt. So yet another rookie getting added kind of into the mix here. Again, I they can play, and they wouldn't be on the field if they couldn't. I 100% agree to that. But I am concerned that there is a little bit of the unknown involved here when it comes to scheming against this defense, and maybe give that credit to Vic Fangio. Not so much the credit to the players just not knowing tendencies. I think that it goes hand in hand too, because Fangio, I don't know if he kind of kept his hand close to the vest in the beginning of the season, or if it was just a matter of these players just kind of figuring out a system. But they are definitely playing well above their heads. I just hope they can maintain the play. They were a force to be reckoned with, and really they are the main contributors to most of these wins, especially during this 6-game winning streak, while the offense figured itself out throughout the course of the game. And without them, it wouldn't be a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, so I guess they're playing right now as though they're the number one defense in football, and I don't think they're that. I definitely think they're up there, and a lot of it does have to do with Vic Fangio, his scheme, putting these guys in the best positions to succeed. Week after week after week, you don't see the same game plan from one week to the next where he just says, this is my defense, like Jonathan Gannon did, go beat it. And then when he faced a good quarterback, guess what? They beat it. We're now seeing them play good quarterbacks. They have a good plan. He's putting these kids in great position, and they're learning his defense. You saw them learn his defense. I think by the breakthrough really, I think, was after the bye week. Fangio's defense notoriously take a long time for players to pick up. They always get better as the second half of the season goes on. So if this is what it is now, I mean, it's crazy for me to say, but this defense could get even better as the year goes on. And I think that's something we should definitely be on the lookout for.
Absolutely. And of course, let's talk one last thing about the Commanders. We'll go through the stat pack as well, and then we'll move on to the Rams. But Jake Elliott, we don't talk about the kicker unless he's going to hit a 62-yarder at the buzzer. We don't talk about him unless, of course, it's on the negative side. And 2 for 4 on Thursday night. I'm not ringing the bell about the kicker. I think he, this is probably the first game in his career in the 8 years he's been here that he hasn't really had a good game. But is there some concern there about the kicker?
I think there has to be. I mean, yeah, because I don't think it was just this game. He's had a bad season, Jake Elliott, yeah. And it's not that I think he can't get out of it, but like sometimes this happens. Like look at Justin Tucker with the Ravens. He's been awful. It's been really bad this year. I don't know exactly what it is. It doesn't seem like I think the special teams coach had a pretty good point that I don't know these things. I'm not a special teams coach. I'm not a specialist in kicking. But he made the point that Elliott's missing like the same way every time, which is way more encouraging than if he was all over the place, right? If he's missing left, then he's missing right. Like that's a bad sign. That means he's just wild. He has no control. He's just kind of got to hone in a little bit and get it straightened out. So I think there's some hope there, but they can't let this continue for as long as, they can't let this bite them late in the season. Like if Jake Elliott's still showing these kind of signs, I'm sorry. I know they just extended him, but they have to get somebody in here to compete with him in camp. I mean, they're just going to have to. You can't go into a postseason game when the margins are that slim and let your kicker be the reason that you lose. Like you just can't do that. And the signs are going to be there all season. It sort of reminds me of 2022 when we're like, this team's great, but that special team stinks. And then all of a sudden in the Super Bowl, they let Kadarius Toney take like an 80-yard punt return down almost to the house. And then it's like, oh crap, that's right. The special team. So I think it's on the Eagles to monitor this, and they definitely have to keep an eye out for Jake Elliott this season. They can't let this sink their season.
No, I agree. They can't let it sink their season, but wow, Kyle, man, that's right. He hasn't. I mean, we don't talk about the kicker unless it becomes a problem, and with 2 for 4, and the way he just kind of. You got to give Nick credit because he was taking points when he should have. But the kicker was letting them down. So you're right there. You're right. That's a good point. Kyle, on this game, let's go to the stat pack. Eagles were 1 for 3 in the red zone, 22 for 37 now in the season. As I mentioned, 3 measly first half points, 23 second half points, 98 first half points on the year, 9.8 average, 161 points now in the second half for a 16.1 average. They committed 4 penalties for 49 yards, now 55 for 366, forced 1 turnover. It's their 13th. Did not commit any turnovers. Jalen Hurts got sacked twice for 15 yards. They got to Jalen Daniels 3 times for 20 yards and no 0 for 0 on 4th down conversions. That's a positive thing. the Eagles weren't put in a position to go for it on fourth down. 25 now, and the Eagles for the next 4 games, and we're going to get to the Rams here in a second. 25 and 14 is the combined record of the teams heading into the next 4 games. An interesting test that's going to start on Sunday night against the Rams. But let's finish up the Commanders. You had the Commanders. Yeah, I'll give it to you, Kyle. You did it again. 6-4 now on the season. I took the Commanders. No, you had the Eagles. I took the Commanders. You won. I did not. You also had Saquon Barkley as the player of the game, and I don't think there's much of an argument that was also correct. That is your 5th time getting the player of the game correct. 3-7 now in the season. I am in 6-5 as I'm sinking quick. So, Kyle, what are you getting your first of all, the insight for picking player of the game, Kyle? You were all Jalen Hurts all the time last year. You've mixed it up this season, and it's definitely worked.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably leaning a lot on look, it's a low-hanging fruit to pick Saquon Barkley on this team every week. Yeah. The guy's just so damn good. Like, it almost feels like cheating for me to just say Saquon Barkley every week with the way that he's been playing, but like that's been him all year. I mean, he is just an absolute beast, dude. And every time he gets the ball, he has a chance to take it to the house and make something special happen. So you can also give a lot of love to Jalen Carter. You can give a lot of love to the defense. But, I'll take my W if you want to give it to me for Saquon Barkley.
I got to, Kyle. I mean, you went out there. I mean, he could have had a bad game. He can't be. I mean, listen, it's incumbent upon the defense to stop him, and they're not stopping him. So why not keep riding the hot hand? I agree with you, Kyle. So, all right, let's move on. Sunday Night Football, Kyle. Terrible time slot of the week. Can't stand it. But no, I hate Sunday Night Football. I've never liked it. Eagles Rams are going to get on the plane for the final time in 2024. Eagles will have no more plane trips after this one, which is very key heading down the stretch. Mm-hmm. They go into LA to play a 5-5 Ram team that finds themselves in second place in the NFC West, a game behind the first place Arizona Cardinals. Well, we'll get into the NFC West and what has happened out there, but Kupp is back. You got Nakua, he's back. They're starting to kind of heat up a little bit. Matt Stafford's heating up a little bit. Before I start breaking this thing down, I want your take on what has happened in the NFC West. What's going on?
Jonathan Gannon and those Arizona Cardinals, man. It's just a weird division. I mean, it seems almost right for somebody to come in and make a little bit of noise when you have the Niners taking a step back. They kind of got decimated with injuries to start the season. And then, of course, the Super Bowl hangover classic, that kind of thing. The Rams have been a little bit beat up too. The Cardinals are just playing good football, man. And then you got Seattle too. Like it's a fun division. That one's going to come down to the very end. So I don't know if I can explain exactly what's going on over there, but that's going to be a division that I'm keeping an eye on the whole rest of the season. And I got to say, I hope the Niners end up the odd man out. Matt, I wish we could catch the Niners slipping sort of like they caught us last year when they were like, oh, you beat us in the championship. And now all of a sudden you're a completely different team. And we're going to prove to you that, something that doesn't even make any sense. And then we're going to come in and kick your ass, even though you're just not the same team. I wish we could do that to the Niners this year because they're not on the schedule, but they're slipping like we were last season. It just sucks that we can't take it to them like they did us. Who knows? Maybe we end up the 2 seed. They end up the 7 seed. We get a little matchup with the Link and we can wear black on black to go to the 49ers funeral. That'd be a fun little thing I think we could see happening.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but here's the thing, and this was something that I thought a lot of Eagles fans lost sight of last year. I mean, we're at week 11. We're not at week 17. I mean, we still have a bunch of football left to play. Both teams, everybody does. This the way the standings are today are no guarantee that's the way they're going to look at the end of the season. And but you're right, there's something not right with the 49ers. Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there's just something that seems to be off about them this year, and there's something that seems to be on about the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. But no, you're absolutely right. It would be nice to get a team that's coming on the downside. We never seem to catch that break. We always seem to get caught, but we never seem to catch that break. I 100% agree with you.
Yep. I think that the NFC is sort of like that, where you have the haves, and then I wouldn't say the have-nots. I mean, it's going to be tight. There's going to be a lot of teams fighting for those last few spots, but I do think you have the Lions in a tier above everybody else. Then probably the Eagles, probably the best of that second tier. And then sort of everybody else. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Not that there can't be upsets at that point in the season, but I don't know if there's any super, super weak team that's going to end up in the postseason this year in the NFC.
I agree. It should be a fun ride to the end. So it gives Eagles fans hope that Why not? Why can't it be the Eagles coming out of the NFC? So I agree. It's going to be a fun ride. And I like it like this. I like the parody, honestly do.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle. SoFi Stadium on Sunday Night Football in LA. Gridiron is reporting that the Eagles are going on with their Wentz whites. I doubt that's correct. I don't think the Eagles would wear Wentz whites in the second half of the season, but if that's the case, that's what they're reporting. The Rams going with their blue tops and white bottoms. The weather out in LA is going to be a balmy 52 degrees at game time, so very nice, comfortable mid-late November weather to play some football. Injury report. Eagles are dealing with a couple naggers. Devontae Smith, this was as of yesterday, was not a participant in practice yesterday due to a hamstring. Milton Williams also did not participate because of a foot. Bryce Huff, we mentioned him already. Jalix Hunt, who's going to be Bryce Huff's replacement, he also did not participate because of an ankle. Jalen Hurts dealing with an ankle injury. He was limited in practice yesterday. Nakobe Dean was limited because of a groin. And Britton Covey, returning, was a full participant in practice yesterday for the Eagles. Kyle, the team is. I wouldn't call this a concerning injury report. It's actually pretty good to see Covey getting ready to come on back. But health-wise for the Eagles, where would you put this team right now? Is Bryce Huff? Does that injury scare you at all? I mean, he hasn't really been much of a factor this year.
No, it doesn't scare me. I would like. The one thing that he does add to the team is that he's sort of like that third down specialist, which keeps another guy off the field, keeps him fresh for the other down. So in terms of that, that's a little bit of a loss. Obviously nothing huge because Bryce Huff really hasn't been a contributor this year, almost more of like a non-factor, if anything. The one I'm looking at is Devontae Smith. It's 2 days in a row now where he didn't practice.
Yep.
I mean, they need him. Like, he's not as important as AJ Brown is, but having your full complement of weapons on the offense is a big deal, especially when you're going against a team like the Rams, who've shown that they can score when they have their full roster on offense. Puka and Kupp going to play, and Stafford's healthy, so you never know when you're going to find yourself in a shootout. You're going to need all your weapons for that.
As for the Rams, they're dealing with some interesting injuries. Rob Haverstein, the right tackle, was not a participant in practice yesterday due to an ankle problem, and his backup, Joe Noteboom, also dealing with a ankle injury. He was limited in practice, so right side of that line might be a little dinged up. Charles Woods, ankle problem, the DB. Kobe Durant had a thigh problem. He was limited. And KT Levinson, who's battling his way back from the IR, was a full participant unless he comes off that ankle injury. A little bit of concern on the right side of the Ram offensive line potentially for them, but other than that, everyone seems to be fully healthy and it should be a good game.
Yeah, their tackles on both sides this season just been generally weak. I mean, that's one of the things I think that's held the Rams back from realizing their full potential on offense. Probably one of the big reasons they're 5-5. You saw them kind of get beat down by the Dolphins. And that played a big part in it. A lot of the Rams' losses this season have been because Matt Stafford really hasn't had much time. And that's because the two guys, the bookend tackles there. So that's definitely something that we're going to have to look out for. Not sure if those guys are going to play. Doesn't seem like it, but that's definitely an area the Eagles should look to exploit Sunday night.
It should be. And with all that said, Kyle Quinn, what is going to happen on the Eagles' final airplane trip of 2024 regular season as they head out to LA?
Yeah, Rams are a sneaky tough team, right? They're traveling to the West Coast, which is always a tough thing to do when you're a team that's here on the East Coast. But the Eagles have a long layoff, right? It's sort of like their mini bye week. So I think the Eagles are going to come out looking a little bit more fresh than they normally would had it just been a regular week and they're traveling to the West Coast. Don't think it's going to be an ass kicking by any means. The Rams are kind of a sneaky tough team, still sort of fighting for their playoff lives at this point in the season. So the Rams need a win, and they're at home. This is a good opportunity for them to get one. And then, of course, the Eagles have another tough test the next week against Baltimore. So I think it's going to be a challenge, but I'm not overly concerned because I think the Eagles have more than the Rams do on talent, both sides of the offense. And I think they'll be able to get the job done, but probably more of a close game than people are comfortable with.
And what are your 3 keys to Eagle victory?
Yeah, so Jalen Hurts cannot hold on to the football as long as he has been in the first half. I mean, it's killing this team. And if the Rams put up 7 or 14 on you real quick, then the Eagles aren't going to be able to lean on their running game in Saquon Barkley. So Jalen Hurts has to I don't know, whatever they need to do to get out of the mud in the first half. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Jalen Hurts isn't liking what he sees or he's not seeing it on time, but he's got to not hold on to the football. He's got to get rid of the football, got to get it to those playmakers early on in the snap. And on the other side, I think the Eagles need to be ready for that quick passing game from the Rams. The one way that they're going to be able to stop those tackles from hurting them is by getting the ball out quick. I mean, this is what you saw Baker Mayfield and the Bucs do to the Eagles in that Week 4 matchup when, I mean, they just took it to us. And that was Baker Mayfield getting the ball out of his hands super quick. And I think the Eagles, while they don't really get the sacks, they do get pressure pretty quickly. I think among the top in the league of getting pressure, and the Rams are like the bottom of the league in allowing pressure and how quick they do that. So that's something that I think the Rams offense, Sean McVay, is going to be on the lookout for. And then the other one is, I mean, they have to just take care of the football. Like, they can't let the Rams steal possessions from the Eagles, especially if it's going to be one of those games where it's an offensive shootout. Then the Eagles are going to need as many possessions as they possibly can. Don't give up any to the Rams. If they do a lot of those things, the Eagles are able to play their game, then I think they should be able to come out with their 7th win in a row.
Yeah, 7 win in a row, 9-2, and they would definitely put a stranglehold, especially if the Commanders. The Commanders are on a bye this week, I think. But
well, they might as well be. They're playing the Cowboys.
Oh, that's right, they are playing. yeah. So maybe we get a what's his name's going to start? What's his the backup?
Lance?
No, the backup for the Commanders.
Mariota.
Marcus Mariota. God damn it. Yeah, maybe he plays. All right, for my 3 keys to Eagle victory is, again, I'm going to tattoo this on my forehead. I need a fast start. And now I'm starting to negotiate with the devil here. Now just give me a touchdown, man. That's all I want. Just give me a friggin' touchdown. I don't care how you get there. Just give me a touchdown on that opening drive. Make me feel better about this team. My number 2 key to Eagles victory is keep winning despite your quarterback. And that's I think a hard reality that this fan base is going to have to maybe come to grips with, that this is not an elite quarterback, and that I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback or a starting quarterback. He's just not elite, and we might have given the money to the wrong guy yet again, but you got to keep winning despite that. And then my final key to Eagles victory is you're back-to-back on national TV. You have another back-to-back opportunity to make another statement in front of the national crowd. Don't let that opportunity pass you by. Keep the pedal to the metal and beat the Rams.
Yeah, and don't sleep on the Rams either. I mean, I know they're 5-5, but they're sneaky dangerous. I mean, they can put up points on you. They can run up the yardage on offense there. So they definitely need to be worried about that quick hitting game. Puka, Cooper Kupp. I mean, Sean McVay is a damn good offensive schemer. That Fangio Sean McVay matchup is going to be really interesting to watch. And if you're a big football guy, then you better be ready to tune into that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And give me your team. Give me your winner, your score, and your MVP.
All right. So I'm going to go 27-20 Eagles. I do think it's going to be close, but I think the Eagles are going to be able to just do enough on offense, and the defense is going to be able to keep the Rams out of the end zone enough for the Eagles to get a 7-point win. Not the most comfortable of wins, but a win nonetheless. I don't think anybody should be upset with a closer game here. It's going to be a tough test for the Birds. So I don't know if the Rams are going to want to let Saquon Barkley beat them. They have a good young defensive line. They're sort of similar to the Eagles defense in that they have young players who are playing really well. In fact, the guy in front of Quinn Mitchell is Jared Verse for defensive rookie of the year. And he's been a little bit of a problem. So I'll give this one to A.J. Brown. Let's say A.J. Brown steps up and has a big game, and he carries the Eagles to a win here.
I can see that. I don't agree. I'm going to go with the Rams, 28-17 here. And I think Cooper Kupp is your MVP. I'm not really certain who they're going to put Kupp on. I don't know if Darius Slay will get Kupp, but I think that Quinn will find his time matched up with Kupp at some point in this game. And I think Quinn Mitchell fails the test. I'm not saying that's a bust, but I think he fails the test against Cooper Kupp, and I think Kupp has a big night. And I think he is one of the main reasons that the Rams win this game, 28-17.
You better stop sleeping on that man, Quinn, dude. He shut down every good receiver he's faced this year.
I get it, but that list is not what you would call a potential Hall of Fame list. Now, Cooper Kupp is sure it is. Who? What?
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb. He's a Hall of Famer.
Matt, have you seen CeeDee Lamb play football?
I've seen CeeDee Lamb. You're saying CeeDee Lamb is a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver?
He is absolutely on pace to have a Hall of Fame career. Yeah,
I totally disagree with that statement. And
I think you're nuts. But by the way, you can just go up and down the list all season long. He's faced a lot of really, really good receivers. They don't have to be Hall of Fame for him to put up impressive showings against these guys. Teams don't throw his way. I mean, you should
Stop
have
it.
seen
I
this
am
season.
just saying that I don't
I
think he
know.
passes the test here.
Okay,
I'm not saying he's a bad
I
DB.
I just think Quignon's an interesting one to pick on. If you're talking about somebody that you don't think is going to step up on defense, Quignon has been maybe one of their best defensive players this year.
How many turnovers has he forced?
They don't throw the ball at him, Matt.
Well, I mean, they have. Listen, you're right, and that's the mark of a good DB when you don't hear his name all game. I 100%
They don't
agree
throw
with you.
him the ball. It's like it's Darrelle Revis-esque.
Well, they're going to throw the ball at him probably on Sunday. There's
I don't
no
think
way
so.
they're going to get away from that.
I will make you a bet that Kupp gets fewer than 5 catches against Quignon in this game.
So when Quignon and Kupp are matched up, you think Kupp will get less than 5
Under.
catches? So 4.
Yeah, no question about it.
Okay.
There's no question in my mind.
Shake on that, man.
If they even throw at him matched up with Quignon 5 times, I don't think they will.
The winner buys lunch.
Deal.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to go, as I said, 28-17 Eagles, and Kupp has the big game because he's going to actually have a big game. Against Quignon, against Cooper, against Darius. I don't care who it is.
I'm going to leave you in the dust with this record then, Matt.
You are. I'm potentially could be 3-8 here, and you could be 7-4, and I would be pretty much. I mean, we don't have a postseason, but I mean, I'm on my way to the first round draft pick or to the first overall draft pick.
You're tanking. Sure. You're tanking.
Yeah, I'm tanking for next season. All right, Kyle. Before I let you go, before we do the question of the week, I do want to introduce a new segment here on the program. We're getting into that back end of the season, so I do want to talk power rankings with you. I want to reveal to you my top 10 power rankings in the NFL right now, and I want to just get your take on it. My number 10 team, I'm going to go with your team, the Los Angeles Chargers. Out of nowhere this year, finally, sneakily, quietly having a very good season. Number 9 is Green Bay. Number 8 is Minnesota. Number 7 is Houston. You got the Eagles at number 6. Baltimore 5, Pittsburgh 4, Buffalo 3, Detroit 2, and Kansas City at number 1 currently in my top 10 pro football power rankings. Kyle, what take do you have on that?
So I think the Eagles are a little bit low. I think I would consider them one of the top 4 teams in football. I think Pittsburgh, while they have a good defense, a little bit fraudulent. I think if you played that game against the Ravens that they just had 10 times, I think they win it 3 times, and that was one of those 3. I think Baltimore's better than Pittsburgh. I would say, if I just had to do one at the top of my head, I also think the Chiefs are overrated. I know that they just got their first loss, but they're not impressive at all. Patrick Mahomes having a bad year. So I think it's probably 1 or 2, Buffalo and Detroit. They just feel like they're in a different class than these other teams. And then I think I would probably have to go Eagles, Chiefs ahead of the Eagles. Eagles number 4, then probably Baltimore, just off the top of my head. And then I'd probably follow that with Pittsburgh. And I agree with you. I think the Chargers are actually a sneaky good team, and they can do some damage in the postseason there. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And, these next few weeks will definitely tell us a lot more than we know at this point.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said, it's the time of the year we start kind of looking at that. And most football experts say football doesn't start till Thanksgiving, which is next week too. So this is a great time of the year right now for football. This is when it really, the pretenders go away and the contenders rise to the top, and we have some great little playoff races. All right, Kyle, our question of the week segment. Again, the most daunting task for me every week is to lock myself in this room and come up with a great question. And I'm going to go with defense with you and all the Zach Bond talk. Would Howie Roseman be smart to lock down Zach Bond on a 5-year or multiple year contract today?
Well, they got to do it, I think, before he hits free agency. I would. I don't know if this is we're witnessing a change of Howie's philosophy. You saw him sign a running back this offseason, which is something that he hasn't done quite a lot at all, actually, never really. So maybe you start to see the value turn to I think the biggest difference here is that Vic Fangio believes that the linebackers are the key to his defense. And if he were to go to Howie and say, look, this guy is going to be a centerpiece for me for a while, then I think Howie will do it. Now, whether Bond's interested in doing that or if he thinks that he can cash in on a big money deal in the offseason, I don't know. But if you're asking me, would it be smart for Howie to do it right now? Yeah, the sooner the better, because they can't let this guy test free agency because he's going to probably demand a pretty decent payday for a linebacker.
Yeah, and I have visions of TJ Edwards dancing in my head right now where I thought that was probably one of the worst decisions that Howie ever made by letting Edwards go. Now, Edwards has had I don't think he's replicated the type of, well, he did have a good year his first year in Chicago.
He's been good, yep.
Hasn't, yeah, but, but he definitely, the performance that he's played would have fit nicely here throughout the year. So I don't want to see that happen again. Linebacker is a position that we already know this team struggles with completely. And if we can find one or find two, you got to lock him down long term. I agree.
I mean, you let him go all of a sudden, and I love the kid mainly because I love his dad, but you're going to be looking at Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he's going to be starting next year next to Nakobe Dean. I don't know if we're ready for that. All right, Kyle, before I let you go, please tell the folks out there where they can find you.
Yep. So Monday through Friday every day on 94 WIP, 10 to 2. I'm with Hugh and Joe producing their show, and then on Twitter at Kyle_Quinn WIP.
All right, Kyle. Eagles Rams Sunday Night Football. We'll come back next week. We're going to talk some Baltimore Ravens and Eagles. I think that's going to be the potential game of the week. It should be a lot of Eagle fans invading. Wait, is that home? No, that's not home. That's on the road, right? Yeah, we're in Baltimore next week. Yeah, we're in Baltimore. So, yeah, we're on. So, yeah, because Eagles don't play home games. Did you not know that? Did you get that memo? They don't ever play home games.
Well, they're all backloaded, which is good.
I know that's coming finally. It seems like it's been forever though, but so we'll talk next week, Kyle. We'll see.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Matt. Go Birds.
All right, Kyle Quinn. As always, his insightfulness. All right. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that everybody here understands that here on the network, oh man, I almost said it. It's a Rap Sports is the network that I'm on now. We got a big night here on the program. A little bit later on tonight, 9 o'clock, I will be back. Sorry about that. I'll be back with the final word with Matty B. And then tomorrow, the Fighting's Final season premiere, season 2024 Phillies season review show will be coming at you at 7 p.m. tomorrow night as we will sit down. The Fighting's Final staff, the crew, the group, the boys, the guys, whatever you want to call us. We'll sit down and break down the Phillies season one final time before we put our attention towards 2025. And before I let you go, it's time to do my pick segment. This is where I reveal how I did in week 11 and how I'm doing all season and my week 12 picks. So first and foremost, I was terrible in week 11, 6-8. I have not had a below 500 week in a while, but this was a bad week for me, 6-8. Overall now for the season, 94-71. And let's reveal our picks, shall we? Again, as you said, I think the Rams win this game Sunday night against the Eagles. I like Pittsburgh over Cleveland. I like Minnesota over Chicago, Detroit over Indy, the Dolphins over the Patriots, Tampa over the Giants. As Kyle said, the Commanders who were playing the Cowboys, give me the Commanders. KC over Carolina, which is that even should they not even play that game? Just call that, just call it what it is. I do like Houston over Tennessee, Denver over the Raiders, San Francisco over Green Bay, Arizona over Seattle, and on Monday Night Football, give me Baltimore over those pesky Chargers. And there you have my picks for Week 12. And then you have our breakdown of the Eagles-Rams, our review of the Eagles-Commanders. We will talk again later on. Well, we'll talk next week on the Birds Blast. And then don't forget to come back later on tonight for the final word with Matty B. Until we talk then, you guys have a great rest of your afternoon and have a great night.
I'll be coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I go so yo. Everybody know I'm you know when the click through. Then it's about to be a slow beat.